York City. I'm on my fifth day of fasting, zero food at all. No food. Some people ask me, well, what do you actually eat? And I'm like, nothing. And they're like, yeah, but like liquid? And I'm like, water. And I was drinking coffee and matcha, but I've even stopped that now. I'm just drinking water. And so that's it. And and my vitamin pills, but none of those pet pills or anything like that you would see on Dr. Strangelove. Just vitamin pills, normal vitamin pills. It's too bright. Anyway, tell me if this is feeding out. We'll get started. A lot of interesting things to talk about. So many, and I will answer questions. Whoa. Need my microphone. Start again. There we go. I'm on my fifth day of fasting. No food, zero food. So let's see. And let's see. See if anybody's on there. There is. Hey, Kevin, is it still broken? Maybe it's better now that I've got the microphone pulled up. I left the microphone hanging up in the air. You can tell I'm not very accustomed to. Thanks, Kevin. Please share it out. We'll wait until a couple hundred people get on and get going here. And, Facebook and the social media outlets are really inhibiting, Steve Bannon on War Room Pandemic. Hey, Eureka Dick Clark, Richard. They got blocked from Twitter today. War Room Pandemic got blocked from. I follow them on Twitter and I watch their shows. I didn't see anything. I watched tonight. I didn't see anything on there. I never see them say something that should get somebody blocked. And Tommy's been declared the same. Good. Well, and actually someone just said, let's see if Andrew will post it back up here again. Yeah, and Kevin says, it did not give me a notification when I went live on YouTube. So Facebook not, but YouTube did. So everybody please sign up for my YouTube because Kevin said he got the alert on YouTube, but not on, hey, in Odessa, Texas, and Bope. And Bannon got blocked from Twitter. Steve Bannon on War Room Pandemic. It's the best show on the pandemic is War Room Pandemic. I've been on it 2 or 3 times, actually. I mean, I'm not saying that's why it's the best show. I'm just saying Bannon's smart to have me on. And so, so strange. And so he was calling out Dorsey too. Bannon called Dorsey a pencil neck on his show today. Oh boy. And so, Andrew earlier was saying that Bannon mentioned food shortages on the horizon, but I didn't see that actually. So if anybody's seen that, please leave the link here because I've been warning about food shortages since January. And a lot of people are already like, oh, you know how it goes. Well, there's no food shortages yet. You were wrong. And I'm like, hold on, Rambo. Keep stocking up. Or don't stock up and go hungry. So there you go, man. This is big boy rules. Dr. Fauci, speaking of big boy rules, Dr. Fauci, he gives me the creeps. And now I see he's having an open tiff with President Trump, and President Trump's tweeting about him and whatever. Fauci's, notice I haven't said much about Fauci at all through the many hours I've live streamed. Very rarely even mention his name, and I've been very cautious with my words about him. But I've told some people privately there's something about him that gives me the creeps. Like I don't know. I just don't trust him, to be honest. And it looks like he's done some things. You can see President Trump is saying he needs to be fired. Let's get on. Okay, it's shared out, so let's get on. But Dr. Fauci, he was giving me the creeps a little bit. But we're going to talk about some very interesting stuff today. First of all, let's start with one very important item. I talked tonight for a very long time with a Thai doctor who treats what they call COVID, which is actually accurately called CCP-Virus or Xi's disease, and others people colloquially, the word, call it COVID. And so anyway, he treats it and has been for a long time. And so I asked him specifically about, how is it transmitting now? Like, what's the latest on that? And I asked him specifically, can you get it on like cuts on your hands? If you got a cut on your hand, can this get into it? If you got a cut on your finger, whatever. And he said, no. But respiratory is obviously super bad. And so respiratory, it's going through your mouth, your nose, and your eyes, especially mouth and nose. Mouth and nose and eyes. Look, I used my pencil to touch. Actually, that's not exactly a Blackwing 602, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, but that's a fine writing pencil right there. You know what a Blackwing 602 is? If you don't, you're missing out on good pencils. Or those Mitsubishi pencils from Japan. Japan makes everything good. So a lot of interesting things on in Thailand. So let's talk about them, and then I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. Yeah, Kim says, I don't like Dr. Fauci because he's wishy-washy. He is, because on like February 10th, right? I think it was February 10th, Fauci was saying, you don't need to wear masks. That was like February 10th. Keep in mind, I had already ordered 600 masks to hand out to people by about January 27th, I think. And I realized, I think we went offline. Let me see. We went offline. Are we online? Looks like we went off. I don't know. I just got an alert that said we went offline. Yeah, Smithfield. Let me see if it's online. Somebody tell me if we're online. If we're not, I'll have to restart. Hope not. It'll take 10 minutes to restart. Fauci lies. Dr. Fauci lies. Well, I might be talking to myself here. Well, just in case I am talking to myself, okay, it's on YouTube, Ward Dunlap says, and it's on Facebook. Great. Okay. Why did I get an alert that it stopped? There you go. This is like one of those, you're on a rocket ship and the alarms go off that says you're offline. Thanks, guys. I see it online. Appreciate it. Software glitch. I was talking to my friend Soy today. She's down near Bangkok area. She's actually Kai's mother. Kai, Kai's incredible. And I often publish photos of Kai. And so I was talking with Soy just about fasting. Like, she's fasting too. I'm in my 5th day of a fast, 0 food. And she's doing the same thing. We started the fast at the same time, 17:30, about 5 days ago. We're into our 5th day. And so I hear a siren go on in the background behind her when we're talking. And, in America, you hear sirens a lot. Even if it's in a slow town, you'll hear the sirens. Loud, crazy sirens, right? So many. I didn't realize there's so many sirens in America until I lived in Europe for 6 years and, all over Asia and different countries. And you don't often hear sirens in other countries. You would hear them sometimes in Hong Kong because of the insurgency. But generally, so when I heard the siren, I was like, hey, what's up with the siren? I was talking to Soy on the phone earlier today. And she said, yeah, there's so many lately. And she said, I said, what is that? Ambulance or police? She said, ambulance. And I said, wow. And she goes, oh, many. We're hearing ambulances night and day now. So I said, that's strange. Because if there were that many people dying from virus here like New York, we would know. I mean, between me and my friends and networks, we would absolutely know. There's no way to hide it, right? So I call a doctor friend of mine. I'm like, what's up with all these ambulances that people are saying? And he said, well, ambulances are free in Thailand. They're not free in the United States. You can go broke with an ambulance, right? But they're free in Thailand. They're actually volunteer ambulances. And the people do those based on, people make donations, right? And like when somebody had to rescue my dog Barney's puppies, they came and it was very difficult rescue, but they came and rescued and they wouldn't accept money for it. They did it. They had to donate to Temple or whatever. So likewise with the ambulances, if you get an ambulance, you don't pay, you donate if you want to, and then they get merit for it. Merit, to Buddhism, basically, or the Christianity version is, you're doing the right thing before the eyes of God, right? It's the same thing. And you get, like credit for that. So anyway, what my doctor friend said in Thailand today was that there's so many ambulances because people are using the ambulances to go to the hospital. But the cases don't seem to be that high yet. They are going up, it's going to be serious. We'll talk about that in detail, actually. Let's talk about that in detail. I'll try to answer one more question here, and then we'll talk about Thailand in detail, and then we'll talk about other things, and then I'll just start rapid fire answering as many questions as I can. Rachel says, so are we supposed to wear masks or not? Yes, absolutely. Wear a mask. Unequivocal. Wear a mask. For sure. 100%. Wear mask. Definitely. And the Surgeon General and Dr. Fauci and CDC and the World Health Organization, basically all those liars, that were like, yeah, not a big deal. They were all lying. And they know they were lying. They did it. They told people not to wear masks, even while I was buying 600 masks to hand out. I didn't need masks. I already had masks. But I was handing. By the way, I figured out the other day when I first really got onto this, it was January 11th. On January 11th is when I really locked into this. I didn't go public with it yet because I started firming it up. I was like, what's going on here? And then as you remember, in the early January 20th, sometime around there, I started doing it on live stream, so it's not written. But sometime in the 20th, maybe 22nd or 23rd, I started publishing like, this virus is coming out of China or something, and, the real social distancing problem is not 6 meters, by the way. And by the way, the new announcements today that might be 13 feet for social distancing. Social distancing is actually the distance from the rest. It's the safe social distance for this virus. It depends on how far you are from China. If you're really far from China, well, it's obviously 13,000 miles is not close enough. I mean, it's not far enough. Social distancing from China looks like you need to be on Mars, because if you're anywhere near China, remember when they got infected, they closed down Hubei province and they let people from Hubei travel all over the world. That was biological warfare. Whether or not they actually made the virus is unknown to me. That's unknown. But the fact that they then weaponized the opportunity is a fact. That is a fact. It's an established fact. We know that. We know that because we know that they knew about the virus. I mean, they were closing down, their country, parts of their country, and still letting people fly out, right? They weaponized this virus, even if it was a target of opportunity that they did it. Now, that's the sort of thing that could get me, knocked off of YouTube and whatever. They could call me a conspiracy theory by saying they weaponized the virus. I didn't say they manufactured the virus. I don't know. But the fact that they then weaponized at least the opportunistic, improvised the opportunity, is they did it. That's period. There's no way around it. So, Damien, I don't know what happened. Did they implant it in the market? I don't know. In the market in Wuhan, I don't know. But what we do know is after it was out there, they certainly used it as a weapon at that point. Hello in Gilchrist County, Florida. All right. How many square feet in a cubic meter? Well, interesting that you ask. Well, let's say 7 feet's about 200 cubic meters, right? 7 cubic feet's about 200 liters, right? Liter is a unit of volume, so it's not cubic liters, right? All right, enough of that. Let's talk about Thailand, and then we'll talk about some other issues. Yeah, you said you don't hear any ambulances in Bangkok. Okay, that's interesting. It might just be where she's at, actually. All right. But they are building more facilities, by the way, in Thailand for this. Okay. Let's keep rolling here. Thailand. Why? I asked the doctor specifically. I've known him for years. I said, why the countries that I thought were going to get hit the worst, the quickest, were Thailand, Taiwan, or maybe not Taiwan, but certainly Thailand and South Korea and Hong Kong, calling Hong Kong a country. I know what I'm talking about, right? So, and they're not. So why? Why am I wrong on that? Why did Thailand not get smashed in the second wave? Now, Thailand had cases very quickly, maybe before U.S. I'm not sure about that, but it was along that general time frame. But why? Because people from Wuhan fly straight to this town where I'm at now, Chiang Mai, the airport. I haven't heard any airplanes fly over my home in a couple of weeks. It used to be all the time, right? They fly straight here from Wuhan. They fly straight to Bangkok and down to other places in Thailand, right? And they often come in, the Chinese often come in for sex tourism, the very things that would spread this virus. And yet it's not been badly hit. And likewise with Taiwan, likewise with Japan. Why? That's a mystery. Why isn't Japan seriously hit yet? I mean, they've got this very older population, and they're densely populated. They've got a lot of factors against them, but they're not. Hong Kong, like the Mongkok area where I used to stay for few months during the fighting. I was there for 6 months, but in the Mongkok area, I stayed a few months. That's the most densely populated area in the world, right? And there's huge amounts of mainland Chinese that come there. So I thought Mongkok would be very bad off by now, but it's not actually in Hong Kong. So we talked about that. Who knows? I mean, I talked with John Batchelor about it, talked with other people about it, and everybody's wondering, like, why did New York get smashed so hard and Los Angeles not yet, not hard, when Los Angeles has taken even more people in from China than New York? Why? What are the factors here? Age, obesity, other factors, 50 other factors. It's probably a boatload, but what is it? Well, I mean, I was talking with my friend, the Thai doctor today, and he has some theories, as others do. Maybe it's because the Thais take more direction from the government, and they won't take direction from like 50 different doctors. You know how it is in America. We're like, I got a doctor. Doctor told me something. I don't like what he told me. I'm going to go get a second opinion. You know, that's what, we want to get somebody can do some confirmation bias, or, to give us a second opinion and a third opinion, fourth opinion, until we finally get one that says, no, you don't have to wear a mask. And everybody's like, see, that guy said you didn't have to wear a mask. You're like, yeah, but the other 50 doctors said you did. So there's less confusion in Thailand because it comes from the government, which if it came from the U.S. government, it would have been all wrong. But and so one-stop shopping on the advice that the Thais will listen to the government, right? Don't get me wrong; they're not slaves to the government, because I've seen the Thais. I've been in the middle of the fighting twice in 2010 and 14 when Thais were overthrowing the government. I was there, dude, in the firefights, like people getting shot and stuff. It was straight up combat, like out of, Afghanistan or something. I mean, it was like no joke. And so they will fight back. So it's not like they're supplicant slaves. Thais are not like that. They're quite strong. But they'll actually take direction from the government often. If the government above says, hey, this thing's got to do social distancing. And another thing that my Thai doctor friend said, the Thais and many Asians are actually afraid of the virus. They realize this is a deadly virus. Most do. Some still don't quite get it. But a lot of them actually get it, especially after the SARS thing came through. They take it seriously. They realize this is a live fire. This is not a drill. This is combat against the virus, right? And for starters, for us. But like Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of United Kingdom, he's out there in March joshing around in the hospital like, I'm shaking hands with everybody. This coronavirus is like nothing, and the next thing you know, he's almost dead in the hospital. He's fine now, but, I don't know if he's fine. He might have permanent damage from that. But anyway, so let's keep going. Then I'm going to answer as many questions as possible. But now another thing that the Thai government has done they figured out that doing things at the, let's say, federal level, than using American language, they're using at the big government level, the Bangkok capital government level, trying to dictate to the rest of the government, to the rest of Thailand, what to do is not like working. Same with President Trump trying to dictate to all the states, which Trump really has been giving a lot of leeway to the states, there are states' rights in America, period, right? Bottom line. And Thailand has done that too. The Thai leadership's like, it's too top bulky to everybody has to make their own decisions. So when they push down the authority down to mayoral level, to the mayors of the towns and lower level, my Thai doctor friend said that's more effective. It's more effective to push it to the local levels. And if some make mistakes, they make mistakes. But the thing is, this is like a millipede. You know what I mean? There's like 1,000, maybe actually 400 legs on a millipede, I guess, right? Anyway, but everyone is independent suspension, and you get much more in the big picture. Things are more effective if you push the authority out, right? And let people make their own decisions, and then accept that some will do stupid stuff. But generally speaking, you'll get more a better reaction. So Thailand, that was another reason that he gave. Now there's some other positive points on Thailand and why they've had at least controlled it more for now, is that they are allowing Thais to go into the hospital, to the public hospitals, right, and get free treatment. There's been some difficulty with that, but mostly it's working. One big problem is about 50 million Thais use the public hospitals, and about 5 million or so use the private ones. So you can have these long waits, 2 or 3 days, like America, right, to get into a public hospital. And so that's a problem. Now, interestingly, testing. This is interesting. You got to listen to this. I should have said this in the beginning. This is really interesting. Let me drink of water. Hold on. Testing in Thailand. Every time you go into a store or whatever, they put that thermometer thing on your head, right? The infrared thing. And so, hey, Barbara. And so the testing is being done more by local surveillance, not surveillance like, spy stuff, but surveillance like for instance, when people come back from Bangkok or some highly infected area to their village, the villagers then quarantine that person. Think about that. That's great. And the family, right? And then if there is a fever from one person in the village, everybody notices. And they're like, hey, you got to go to the doctor. And they take them to the doctor. So the surveillance, without all these high-tech tests that we're waiting on, is just sort of a self-surveillance, the free ability to go to the hospital, and other people around you that are actually afraid of the virus because they're smart, and saying, hey, you got to quarantine or go to the hospital, right? So it's a social thing. It's a thing that's working in Thailand, according to my doctor friend. Their surveillance isn't some high-tech test. A lot of it is not. A lot of it's just, if you go to do the thermometer thing at going to a grocery store and you're testing hot, they might call the police, and then they'll come. They're not going to kill you. This ain't China. You're not going to disappear. They're going to take you to a hospital, or they're going to make you go home, right? And quarantine at home and then come to the hospital later. It's going to be something like that. So, I mean, they're not going to disappear you like China. They're going to maybe happen in China. They're just going to, the police are going to say, what are you doing? You got to go home. You know what I mean? It's Thailand. It's not China. And so, so that's really interesting. So it's that local surveillance. Now, he talked about some other things that need to be improved in Thailand, and these are important for us too in the United States and other parts of the world. Now, they still have the fresh markets, and he's saying, and there's one not far from me, and they are tight spaces, right? And usually they're covered in they're dark, right? And so what they want to do, and hopefully they'll do it soon, is start decreasing the density in there by 50%. Because he's like, what if we got a super spreader in these fresh markets, which are all over Thailand, right? And if there's a super spreader there on these real tight spaces, and it's gonna, well, you know what can happen. I don't need to explain. And so, so one of their ideas is to reduce the density in there by 50% by taking all the stalls have a number, like stall number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And so the odd numbers are out one day, and the even numbers are out the next day, right? So you got 50% right there. That opens it up by 50%. And then the people that aren't getting, any business that day, they'll get some compensation from the government. And they've got an app now that they're deploying that he talked about, but it's kind of hard. It's for even local markets to do fresh market delivery, which is, I love that idea, man. That's great. Oh, we got some other important things to talk about. But one problem that he said that they have with that, with doing an app for the local fresh market people, is a lot of those who are doing it are older people, and they're more like not in tune with computers so much. If you go to the fresh markets, you'll know what I mean. They're like country folk, I mean, they literally like come from farms or whatever. And so they're not sitting here, looking at an iPad. Let's put it that way. And so I got some more interesting things to say. You're going to really be interested in this. So, all right. I'm making sure I get this. Here, let me take a question or two, and then we'll... You're welcome, Jesse. Yeah, antibody tests. Absolutely. By the way, I spoke with Maddie today. I called her up, see how she's doing. And we talked about that guy, Joe Exotic. You know that guy that President Trump, somebody brought up a question to him about? What a interesting and crazy story. I watched some of that Netflix stuff because he got brought up to President Trump, and Trump mentioned it or whatever. And I took a break from tracking this virus since January, and I watched these Netflix episodes on Joe Exotic. Oh, good Lord. I was just like, I hope that guy's not from Florida. Please don't be from Florida. Luckily, he wasn't. But really crazy story. So that's another story. All right, now, in Thailand, they're going to be using hotels, which they already are, for overflow, and also putting up more tents. I know Thailand, they'll be squared away. Like, it'll be good stuff. You know what I mean? I've seen how Thais do this. They're super squared away. So it's going to be, I just know from experience, from 2010, 2014, and other experiences, I know that the Thais will do a good job on that. I'm not worried about it. It's going to be some dirty, nasty tents or something. You might find one somewhere that's like that, but I just know how they operate. It'll be good to go in general. Now, another thing, a problem with the wet markets is the fresh markets is the masks. They can get hot there and sweaty, and people don't want it. I've seen that. They'll take the mask off and hang it off the ear. You know how it goes, right? And you end up with the mask hanging off your ear type stuff. It's like, oh, it's doing a lot of good, Maverick. All right, and a couple more things, and then I'm gonna start answering questions. They are worried about the slums here, or the densely populated area, because they often many families can share one toilet. So the Thai government's working to, that's going to take some effort. But a lot of positive things can come out of this in the long run. I mean, we're going to get some really negative things in the short run, like super negative. And the worst is not even close to being here yet. Believe me, I've been studying this 7 days a week. But on the other side of this, a lot of positive can come out of it. All right. Rainy season. This is what's important. Pay attention. A lot of people are talking about, are you paying attention? A lot of people are talking about, the summer can come and this virus, will do the disappear thing, as some viruses, the cases can abate. But some viruses, according to the infectious disease experts, they don't, right? Some do and some don't. In any case, there's another problem in Thailand in the warm season, and that's monsoon. You got to see it. It's really good. It's like, well, if Florida was in Asia, we would call Florida summertime. We would call that monsoon. Rainy season, right? And rainy season actually brings colds in Thailand, even though it can be blistering. This is Florida weather, right? This is where I'm at in Chiang Mai. It's central Florida weather. Actually, it gets a little bit hotter in central Florida and a little bit colder in central Florida. So this is a little bit milder than central Florida, but basically the same, more or less. But in the rainy season, more people get colds. Think about this for a minute. This is really interesting. This is what the doctor was telling me. He's like, this is this problem they got coming. And not only that, but dengue. Dengue, break bone fever, it's horrific. Al Johnson, who's going to be publishing on his own on my Facebook soon and YouTube, he had dengue before. Sorry, I don't mean to point at you. Ask Al Johnson to explain dengue. It's not good. I've known a lot of people that have it. Here's the problem. My Thai doctor friend was telling me today, in addition to dengue being a problem, and it'll kill you, and you can get it multiple times, by the way, and often it's the second time that kills you, he said the symptoms present, they look like CCP-Virus. So when your symptoms are presenting for dengue, so what are you going to do now? Because the treatments are vastly different, and you don't need to put a boy in a bubble type situation for dengue, right? So this brings a difficulty for them. So they're talking about how they're going to do a mosquito eradication program, educating people to dump out the water. That's one thing they don't do as much in Thailand. Ever since I was a kid in America, and Japanese will do it too, and Germans will do it. Like if I see standing water, if I see this outside, I've been programmed, man. I've been properly robotically programmed. If I see standing water, I go dump it out. If I see a old tire that's got water in it, I'm like, why is this here anyway? But I'll dump the water out of it. The mosquitoes will smoke you. You know, like even in Florida, malaria. They used to have malaria in earlier days in Florida. I think they still do, but not so much because we had mosquito control. So we can all help control mosquitoes. Like I've got a little pond out here. You know, it's just decorative. I would rather be growing something I'm going to eat anyway. But so I put little minnows in there. The minnows will eat the larvae. So right, but there's one. As I walk around, I've been looking for water spots that I'm going to be dumping out come rainy season. Right, I'm already on my job, but we need to educate. Like Thais don't usually dump the water. So we need to just educate everybody, start dumping the water, because this is not only, protection against dengue, malaria, but also when you go to the hospital for dengue and they confuse it with, it can be life and death. And so likewise, the flu's coming up. So he's talking about my Thai doctor friend, usually Thailand only gives free flu shots for people over 65, right? Free flu shots in Thailand for people over 65, but they want to reduce the number of flu cases this year so much in May and June that he's talking about maybe the government will vaccinate everybody that'll take a vaccination. And because that way they have fewer background noise infections from normal seasonal flu and dengue, right? Because these are going to start presenting themselves in the rainy and hot season. For us, obviously, the seasonal flu is in the winter, but not Thailand. So it's different. That's why you look across the globe and you're like, hey, what about this? What about that? And you're like, yeah, there's so many variables. If you travel around enough, you'll be like, okay, that's why often you hear me like going, I don't know. The I don't know is not an indication of really ignorance. It's an indication of I'm smart enough to realize I'm ignorant. You know what I mean? I've traveled around the world enough to know that generally I often keep my mouth shut. So, but he said, yeah, and he hopes that they will reopen in Thailand by the 1st of May. And that's if they have fewer than 100 cases per day. And then of course they're concerned about, the doctors are just as smart as here as they are in America, right? And they're highly trained. And so they got the same problem here, right? Destroy the economy or people, it's the same crazy problem. And so, but they want to drop it to below about 100 cases per day, and then they'll open the restaurants. But then they'll decrease the density by about 50%. Like you can only have about half as many people roughly. They'll figure it out. He said they're still working on it. But the bars will still stay closed. So all you bar hounds, you're going to have to stay home. And the bars will stay closed. And they're working on to deploy the new app tracking system. And most of the important stuff, that is it. I'm going to start answering questions. I really want to thank everybody for supporting my work, by the way, big time. Thank you for supporting by Patreon, Venmo, Bank of America, mail, Japanese account, Thai accounts. It's really important. Since 2005, my main source of support has been just people hitting the PayPal button, or Patreon is actually the best. Patreon's the best because people usually sign up for monthly. Actually, people can't seem to figure out how to do it day by one time. Maybe they stopped that. When I first went on to Patreon, you could actually go a one-time donation. But last time I looked, I couldn't find that, and because others said they couldn't find it either. That's one reason I like Patreon. Those people go like $10 a month or whatever, and that's super helpful. That's what I need. And the reason all my pages are free is because people donate. That's the way it goes. It's very much thank you. And so everybody that's not donating, you can thank the people that do if this information is helpful to you. Sorry, my dog Barney. All right, let's start answering questions. And let's see. So I'm finished saying the big parts of what I wanted to say. I'm just going to answer your questions and chit chat. I'm fasting, by the way. If you're not fasting, you can start now. I'm on the 5th day. I've had 0 food. The only calories I've had would be literally in these vitamins. That's it. And I do it the old people vitamin way, put them in these things, and I've got some elderberry coming, elderberry for just in case on the COVID. And actually I've got ivermectin as well, but I don't know if it works. I've been hesitant to say that because I don't want to sound like I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not, and I'm not taking it, of course, but I got it just in case, and it's cheap and you can get it on Amazon, ivermectin. You get it from veterinarians, and people go, veterinarians, that's animal medicine. It's like, yep, sure is. Oh man, I had the most interesting conversation today with a scientist, a biologist, and went on for hours, went on for about 3 hours. Really interesting. And while I was speaking of animals, by the way, we'll talk about that another time. Let me answer your questions. Elderberries are great, Pam. My grandfather and grandmother used to tell me, elderberries are good for this, elderberries are good for that. Don't eat the stems, they're poison, and don't eat the little green ones. And actually, it's better not to. Anyway, elderberries are great. I've been shopping for a good skillet. That's why you saw me publish that skillet thing today. And I saw these super expensive butter pat skillets. I was like, good Lord, those things are expensive. And then I went over to look at their company, their website, and they're not even shipping because of the virus. So actually, I was going to get Lodge anyway, but I'm getting skillets even while I'm fasting. You know what I'm saying? And let me try to answer some questions. Who is still fasting now? I'm fasting, but who else is? Alexis L. Moon says, who is all fasting right now? I was just going to ask, is there a group fast? We should. Lodge is best, Cheryl said. Actually, this cowboy cooking, you ever seen that YouTube channel? I went over to his channel. I like his channel because he talks with my dialect, actually, even, or similar to my dialect. But he reminds me of really country people that I used to take a lot of advice from and will when I go home. And I'm like, well, what does he say about which is the best skillet? And sure enough, he goes on and he starts comparing skillets and stuff. And, this one's this. Actually, they came to the conclusion that the best one was that butternut skillet. But it's 4 times more expensive. The butternut skillet, they're saying, was better because various reasons. One is it more evenly heats, which is huge, obviously. Is that his name? Is it Kent Rollins? Is that it, Jimmy Stone? All right. No, don't tell me Lodge is made in China. They're supposed to be made in Tennessee. It's Saint something. Anyway, I hope they're made in Tennessee. The company's in Tennessee. I hope they're not made in China. If they're made, I asked one of my friends. Actually, I got onto this virus on January 11th, right? And my friend he's like a special friend. Let's put it that way. He's super dialed in friend, in a very high level way. Right? And so he contacted me. He's like, you paying attention to this virus? And I was like, yeah, but what's up with that? And he goes, well, he's like, I was just warning the Pentagon about it. And, they're not taking it seriously enough. And I was like, huh, because it's on my radar. And now that you're bringing it up to me, okay, that puts a higher ping on my radar, and I started paying more and more attention to it. And finally, okay, I was like, this is a thing. And but anyway, he's got some skillets he might send to me. I asked him today. I was like, hey man, I need some skillets. That's right, South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Yeah, America. I hope it's made in America. Don't tell me it's made in China. I'll be really upset. I told my brother today, he's in Tennessee. I was like, I'll buy it. It's in Tennessee. But you know, those other ones, those butternut ones, which I'd love to get those actually, but they're expensive and the company's closed. But those are handmade in America. Those are handmade. That's why they're so expensive, because they're handmade. But even the cowboy cook, man, he was like, those butternuts are much better. Or butter pat, not butternut, butter pat. Butter pat skillets. Look it up. You'll see what I mean. Butter pat skillets. Super expensive, but they're like much better. Hugh said, is he an NBC guy? No, he's a little bit more, let's say, higher positioned would be the best way to put it, I guess. Wayshawn, Kelly Jansen, she said she thinks it was from someone she was in close. Oh, I don't know who you're talking about though, Wayshawn. So let's see. Oh, Kim Cosart saying the last Lodge skillets I saw last year was made in USA. Do you use Lodge? Lodge are great, man. Those are fantastic. Yeah, tilapia. Oh, King Rama IX. He brought tilapia over. No, he got it from the Emperor of Japan. Because remember, protein was Thailand had, speaking of which, let's talk about food shortages. We have to talk about that. Take a note here real quick. And on something. And then we'll talk about tilapia and King Rama IX. And all right, listen. King Rama IX, he was born in Massachusetts. He's a Thai king. Unfortunately, he's passed away. His body has. You can still feel him here. I mean, I've still got his photo. I mean, I'm American. We were raised not to like kings. And King Rama IX, he was top man. He was absolutely an incredible man. And he was friends with the Emperor of Japan, right? And then Thailand had all these food protein problems. So King Rama IX was dedicating his life to fixing all these huge problem set, right? So his whole life, he hardly left Thailand in his adult years. All he did was work around Thailand. And you can see some photos of him off in America with the president and stuff, but mostly he would stay here and work. And so the Emperor of Japan sent him, what, 500? Was it 500 tilapia fish? And for King Rama IX to help solve, because they were from the Nile, right? I don't know. Thai folks would know. If you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the Emperor of Japan is like, hey, I think I found a problem to help you with your protein problem in Thailand. Because, you know, Thailand and Japan are super tight, right? And so, you know, the King Rama IX gratefully accepted the tilapia, started raising them up, and now you can get tilapia all over the place here. Speaking of which, I'll bet they're really cheap right now because, you know, I wish I weren't fasting, man. You know, but I'm going to fast. I need to get fit for the fight, you know, just in case there's some combat or whatever. I'm too fat. I got to get, you know, you got to be in a certain condition, you know, and I'm not in it, which is unacceptable. And so that's why I'm not even going to eat, and I'm going to get down to a better weight, and then I'm going to eat some tilapia. But so, yeah, tilapia is great. That's why you get tilapia all over every Thai knows this story, but they can tell it better than I can. Ask your Thai friends. Like, why is there tilapia in Thailand, and why? It's great fish too. So, and it's cheap, and it's easy to raise. Yeah. Also, Leslie Billy Stewart, food just tastes better from cast iron. It does. It does. I was telling one of my friends today in Florida, I said, I'm going to get me cast iron, and I might get it. You know, I don't know where I'm going to get it from. I might get it from my special friend. And, but you know, as soon as I get some cast iron, I'm going to start cooking some pancakes. You know, you can't have a cast iron skillet sitting there in your kitchen and not make some pancakes now and then. You know, you shouldn't be carving out like that, but let's face it. I got some maple syrup and I got some butter, and I'm just got to get some pancake mix, Aunt Jemima or something. Maybe I can make my own, and throw some eggs in it. Make me some, oh, yeah, I'll get down to 200. Tommy, for combat, I need to get down to more like 180, 170 to do it really well. Okay, let's see. You see that photo of me that I put up yesterday? Came from an old friend. She sent it, and I think that was made in Germany, down south Germany. And that was when I was in special forces. I was super ripped. I mean, I was ripped like Bruce Lee ripped. I mean, you can't tell in that photo, but you could see veins in my stomach. I was that level when I was in super shape. Yeah, cast iron plus bacon, yeah. I was thinking the same thing, I can hear it now. I can hear it cooking. I can hear it cooking, man. Cast iron, and that's how, you cook your bacon first and then put your eggs in there and cook it on the bacon grease. Man, I got to be quiet talking about this stuff. What am I talking about cast iron stoves when I'm fasting? And if you need mental tricks on how to work your way through the fast, I'm in the 5th day now, right? The hardest is behind me, right? There were a few times I was getting a little hungry but now I'm getting into the 5th day. It gets easier and easier. I know that sounds weird, but you get into the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th day. It actually gets pretty easy. And then at some point you start getting kind of weirdly, kind of almost high. You know what I mean? You're like, wow, I feel good. I feel like special, like extra good, like weirdly good. And not euphoria, but not like post-workout euphoria, but almost there, a little bit lower than that. And then on each time when I've hit 15 days with no food, I've had turbulence on the 15th day each time. I'm like, 15 days is getting tough. You know what I mean? And the longest I've ever gone is 20 days. Tommy Byers says, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds right now. The best shape I've been in 30 years. Good man. How old are you? Hey, Jane Mulligan. Yeah, endorphins kick in on the exercise. But I wonder, what about when you're fasting? I don't know why I would get endorphins. I don't think I get them from fasting. But I certainly... You feel better. Others say the same thing. You'll like feel weirdly good. You know what I mean? It's kind of. Let me see. What's Reg saying? Did that this morning. Cast iron pan, bacon, sausage, and eggs. I like a sausage, but I like bacon a little better. But I love sausage too. Let's see. Donna Smith, prefer poached eggs. Don't eat any fried food. What? Not even bacon? I mean, I don't go hog wild on fried food, but and steaks taste better in the cast iron, right? But what about the metals? I mean, what do the doctors say about that? Not the doctors really, but the nutrition experts, the scientists. Like, is that enough? Do we get enough iron from those skillets? I don't know. Do we get enough iron? What about the chromium? What are those? The other ones, the silver ones. Do you get enough of that? And I don't know. People talk about that stuff, but I don't know. Kevin says, I'm 5'6", 135. I need to do the opposite of fasting. That's good, man. That weight, that's good. Plus, if you get COVID at that weight, you're probably not COVID, CCP-Virus. Fat people are dying. So actually, we need to warn all of our fat friends, especially Americans, got so many fat friends. And you're a lot of Europeans too. They make fun of Americans for being fat, but a lot of Europeans are too. Obesity is one of the main indicators apparently of, that you're going to die from this thing. And actually that's another subject on opening up or staying closed. In the beginning, I was all for draconian closing, but now we've already fumbled the ball. I'm heavily leaning towards, and have been for a while, you've heard me say it a few times, on actually doing a wide open and telling people that if you've got, if you're older or if you're fat, or if you're not supposed to say fat in America, are you? Well, let's just call it what it is, fat, right? So if you're fat, like me, like I'm fasting now, get rid of your fat, or you stay inside from it until you get rid of that fat, right? Or if you got any other issues like depressed immune system from whatever, if you got the AIDS, as some people would call it, if you got something that depresses your immune system, you need to hide out from this thing. It's kind of common sense. Even during the flu season, we do that. We tell people, elderly people and other people with depressed immune systems, to stay inside in the winter. You see those commercials, right? And so why not for this? I mean, in reality, because it looks like most of the fatalities are coming from kind of, starting to shape up pretty well for the doctors. They're starting to figure out who dies from this and who doesn't, mostly, right? Like the kids don't die from it much. I was looking at some Australia information. The Australians are thinking about whether or not they should just let the kids go back to school. And you hear their argument for it. Sounds like a pretty sound argument. What about Sweden? Sweden They're rolling Brazil, rolling the dice. They're just wide open, letting people just do whatever they want. And maybe it'll go in their favor. They know they're going to take more casualties up front. They're like, yeah, we're going to. We know that. But in the long run, we think that we don't know, but we think that we're going to take less casualties up front and save a lot of our economy, right? Although the whole world economy is going down. So we are global. Interesting. So and also one of the things that really concerns me in the United States, and I see it in Australia too. Australia is much more, in UK, you wouldn't believe this, and Canada, they're not nearly as free as the United States. Not nearly. And you see people down in Australia, man, they're out like in a park all alone. There's nobody around them. And there's a video of cops coming up, giving them a ticket, hassling them. They're out in the sunshine, man. There ain't nobody around them. Leave them alone. It's like, what are you doing? Or they're out on the beach alone. It's not spring break, thousands of people. And just leave them alone. Let them be. Now, here in Thailand, I like a Thai system, though, is if you take off to drive from Bangkok up to Chiang Mai, where I'm at, there'll be traffic stops, and they're going to check your temperature with those, thermal guns. And if you got a temperature, they're going to take you out of the car, and you're not going to be able to keep driving. You're not going to go to jail. You're not going to, get beat up. This ain't China. But they're going to be like, yeah, you got a fever. You might say, well, it's something else. And they're going to be like, well, this is the situation. Oh, thank you, Ted, for Patreon. I super appreciate it. Super appreciate that. Anybody who's signing up to my Patreon or PayPal or Venmo or any of those. I like Patreon because people generally sign up monthly. You can do that on PayPal too. And by the way, on my Facebook, if you see that barcode up there, you can just take your phone and take a photo of that barcode, and it'll pop up, and it'll. I'll show you, and then you can photograph that, and it'll open PayPal. Here it is, right here. This on my Facebook. That right there. All you got to do is point your camera at it. I mean your phone camera. And it's not going to work with your Nikon. And just take a picture of that. You can do it right now, probably do it right now. If it's focused, you take a picture of that, do it pick up your camera, and you can actually donate to my PayPal right now. And monthly is by far best. That gives me the chance to plan. Actually, where am I going to go as this disease progresses? I haven't figured that out yet because I'm watching the playing field. Yeah, I'm going to go somewhere, and almost certainly the United States, because this is so serious for our economy, and we are at war with China. They're at war with us. All right, let me continue to answer questions here. Weishan, not all in Australia is equal. Western Australia isn't that hard on the freedom restriction during lockdown. Otherwise, is quite nanny-like, though. Western Australia is kind of like, tell me if I'm right about this way, Sean. Is it kind of like Texas in a sense, like they got a sense of we're Western Australia first? You know what I mean? Am I right about that? I don't know if I'm right. Have you been to Texas? Because you go to Texas and they're Americans. They're straight up Americans, like hardcore. But they'll be like, they'll be, I'm Texan. You know what I mean? Like it's a country. Well, they could in some if they. Let's not go down that trail. Let's see. But they have a very serious Texas identity. Oh, yeah. Australia is very authoritarian. I mean, the Australian police, that's why when Australians tell me about guns or whatever, or British or Canadians, I'm like, y'all just need to be quiet. Y'all just need to be quiet. You don't even have a First Amendment. I mean, I love Australians and British and Canadians. I've been out to combat a lot with the British Army in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, I love Texas, Heidi. When I finally go back to America, I'm thinking about moving to Texas. Although I want to spend a lot of time in Florida because I miss Florida a lot. I'm a Florida boy, bottom line. I got orange juice in my blood. But Texas will be more where the action is on the important matters of the border and issues like that I won't necessarily focus on that, but I want to be close enough that I am getting some knowledge just by being there, even if I focus on other things. Hello in Norway. Jeg elsker deg, Trond. Let's see, maybe jeg elsker deg. I don't know. No, no, I shouldn't say that. You know what I mean. I'm just joking. Ted says, I love Aussies. Yeah, they are. Aussies are great, but they are pretty locked down compared to America. John Miley says, Texas government indicating he is going to relax aspects of quarantine at the line at the end of the week. I need to turn this. I've been following this with you since January, but the numbers are not adding up to what the assumed numbers in China are. Oh no, they're not. Many and maybe most in the U.S. are concluding we overreacted. Oh, no. And see, here's a problem that the epidemiologists will tell you. They're like, this is their conundrum, right? It's the hurricane warning conundrum. They're like, hey, you said this thing was going to be so bad, and then you warned us and we had to do all this stuff, and only a few people got killed. And you're like, yeah, well, only a few people got killed because you took my warnings, right? You know what I'm saying? And so there's that conundrum. Like if we didn't lock down in the United States and take these draconian measures, I think that the chances of being extremely higher fatalities at this point would be very high. I don't know. There's no way to know, but I just sense that they would be extraordinarily high, and they are already, and they're going up, and we're going to take, I don't know. I mean, you see those estimates that were 60 to 100, 240,000 or whatever. I just get the feeling that the United States alone will take 1 million or more fatalities out of this. I mean, I don't get a good feeling about it. I don't know. A good feeling is not science. You know what I mean? It is just intuitive. But remember in January, I was warning about this, and most of that was intuitive. Like when I was telling you about the Iraq Civil War back inside of Iraq, when I was there, I was like, a lot of that's intuitive. I mean, I'm seeing stuff, or what was going on with the Taliban, that was intuitive when I was out there with them and all that. I was like, we either got to smoke them now or make some changes. But anyway, a lot, or the insurgency in Hong Kong, which I correctly called. A lot of that's based on experience, but at the end of the day, it always comes down to intuitive decisions. At the end of the day, it's the same with this right here. That's why I said in January, I started saying, stock up on food now, stock up on water, stock up on the pharmaceuticals you get. Your pharmaceuticals might run out. And people are like, pharmaceuticals? Why? I was like, just stock up on pharmaceuticals, stock up on food, stock up on water. And many people still are already saying, I stocked up on food, and they're very thankful, because now they start to see it. But others are like, you said we were going to have food shortages, but we don't yet. And I'm like, keep stocking up on food. Believe me. Here's the worst case situation is I look very bad because I'm wrong. Am I really wrong? Because it's intuitive. I'm taking my best guess. You know what I mean? And my best guess is, if I were you, I would continue to stock up on food. I would continue to make sure that your water security is fine. Your other types of security are fine. That's all dependent on your particular situation. Any pharmaceuticals that you need, this is it, man. China can cut us off at any moment. India already did, right? And India didn't do it out of malice. They did it India's about to get smoked too, which really worries me because I like India and Indians. Yeah, please do share this out, Kevin. Thank you for saying that. Great that you stocked up on antibiotics. Word Dunlap. Yeah, Cheryl says waiting for the meat shortages, Michael. Oh yeah. That's why I was looking for a freezer today, actually. I mean, I don't really need meat, And actually, I'm thinking about how much should I really stock up, because I got to go back to America because I want to see what's going on in my country, And I miss America. Ultimately, I feel like, how the salmon go back upriver at the end of their life to spawn? You know what I mean? It's like, well, it wouldn't be to spawn. I just miss my country. You know what I mean? A lot of people, it's weird. Some Americans, the longer they're out of America, the less American they become, or they hate whatever country they hate UK, they hate America, they hate Germany, they hate Sweden or Denmark or wherever they're from. They hate it. And then usually they hate the country they land in too, whether that's Thailand or Costa Rica or whatever. They'll hate that country too. But then there's another set like me who love Thailand. I love Thailand, and I highly recommend it to come on vacations and live. And I mean, it's just wonderful. But I am American. You know what I mean? I want to spend a lot of time in America. And a lot of time I want to spend time in Thailand for the rest of my life, but I want to spend a lot of time in America too, and some other places I need to do. Kevin says, Mike's YouTube channel, head over and give him a sub unless you're a dirty commie. Thank you. I like that. Oh man, when I was out with the Maoist I shouldn't do that because some enemy will screenshot that and it'll be my fist and it'll be like, see, he's a Maoist. When I was out with the Maoist it'll be the white power thing, right? See, he's got a American flag on and he's got camouflage on and it's a white power thing because he's white. But when I was up with the Maoist in Nepal, that was their salute. They would be like, you know, and I would joke with them because I kept trying to convince them not to be Maoist because I like Nepalese and I don't like communists. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is a paradox. I mean, I really like Nepalese quite a lot. Every time I meet Nepalese, I'm like, namaste, you know, I start talking with them. And, but the whole Maoist thing, but then I mean, they're good people. Not the Maoist, but not that part, but Nepalese are good people. Hey, in NorCal, I love NorCal. I was up in Sonoma a while and I went to school in San Francisco and some other places. Matthew Dill, my Thai friends laugh at me because I use my refrigerator for food, not water. Yeah. You know what's interesting about a difference between Thais and Americans? This is really interesting. On water, right? On water temperature. Listen to this. This is really interesting. Our preferences on water temperature are backwards. Like a shower that we find quite warm and nice, like comfortable, Thai will be like, oh my gosh, I gotta go to the hospital. They think they're like being scalded to death, man. They think they're pouring boiling water on them or something. You're like, no, that's fine. It's not even warm enough. You know, it's like, and likewise with the cold is the opposite, right? Interesting, isn't it? Like the water that Thais find nice and comfortable cold, most Americans, I'm sure, will say, oh, that's chilly, that's cold. I mean, I take a lot of really cold, you can't take good cold showers here, but because the water's not cold enough to take good cold showers. But it's good to take cold showers for discipline, right? To put yourself in a little pain sometimes, but the water's not cold enough here. So if you live up somewhere where it's really cold, you should turn on that ice cold water sometimes and blast yourself with it just for some good discipline, you know, and some people say it has health purposes too. But, you know, every once in a while, I just say, look, I'm taking a cold shower today. You got to have some discipline, right? So, and you have to, you know, have some pain sometimes for some good discipline. Tammy Smith Cadell, we only go out for essentials. We have our mask, gloves. People look at us like we're crazy. Where you at, Tim? And not distracting, no mask, no gloves. We've been laughed at, pointed at. We don't care how crazy we look. That's because you're smart. We're trying to be safe. Tellico Plains, Tennessee. Oh, you're in Tennessee. Oh, I've been to Tellico Plains. Is known for Bald River Falls. I wonder if I've been there. I have to look on a map. It's got to be right around there. It's got to be right about there. No, right about there. Tellico Plains is right about here, isn't it? Isn't that's kind of closer to East Tennessee, right? I don't remember. Yeah, and so Tellico Plains, people were coming from different states. Oh, wow. Chinohala Skyway, North Carolina, shut down road into Tennessee. Oh, by the way, a lot of people that aren't Americans, they go to America and they're like, why do you have these strange names for your roads? A lot of them are British names or something, but then you have these other strange names. They're Indian. They're Indian names. They're Indian names. Americans have this strange relationship with Indians. I mean, we committed a genocide, right? but there's still huge respect. That's why we name so many weapons after Indians, and football teams and baseball teams, and, you know, Redskins, and people like, that's racist. It's like, actually, it's because they're tough, man. And it was me. He's a Redskin. He's freaking tough. You know, Apache helicopter, Kiowa Warrior helicopter, right? Name so many things after them. You know, Indians were tough. And the main way that we actually beat them was accidentally showing up, or not accidentally showing up, but when we showed up, our ancestors came with things like measles, and not putting it on their blankets or whatever, but just showing up. That's xenophobia has basis in truth, right? Has very real basis in truth. I mean, xenophobia, people show up to the Yanomami Indians or whatever down there in South America and smoke them. I read one of them that has this virus already. How did the Yanomami get the virus? Let's see. Torp Waxer says, but a lot of toilet stalls didn't have toilet paper, just Cherokee. Yeah, Cherokees. No, it's not Native American. It's Indians. It's Indians. Indians. Native Americans is what all the PC people call it, like blacks. American blacks, ask them, you want to be called African American or black? Most of my friends will say black. All that PC crap, you know, or don't call them Eskimos, they're whatever. Maybe the Inuit don't like to be called that. I don't know, because I don't live up there. But the Cherokee were great fighters, and they're very much into their genealogy. By the way, they got a website for it, the incredible genealogy, because so many Americans claim to be part Cherokee for various reasons. Like, I heard that about me growing up. Wow, you're part Cherokee, and I checked out, and I haven't been able to find it actually. And I checked it out in great detail, including the Cherokee tribe helped me check it out. You remember when Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, said she's Cherokee, right? Not that Pocahontas was actually Cherokee. That's a different story. But she was from a different tribe. She was from the, Pocahontas was from the, what tribe was she from? I've forgotten, man. Too late in the night. But you know, she claimed she was part Cherokee, and then listen, the Cherokee Indians are as into genealogy as like Mormon people are. They're super into genealogy. You can't pull it over on them. They got it locked down. And so they can check it like snappity snap. Like when I was checking my heritage, and then I was checking somebody I was researching for a future book, actually The Cannibal. And so they helped me with that and everything. Anyway, because he also told me he was part Cherokee, but I don't think that he was. Sean says, was she Algonquin? No. What was it? Oh, what kind was Pocahontas? I'm sorry, I don't remember. Yeah, I ain't no hyphenated American either. You think I'm going to come up and say I'm Scott-Irish American? Dude, I'm American. Just American with it. There's a difference between a U.S. citizen and an American, by the way. There's a lot of Americans who are Americans who are not U.S. citizens. And then there's a lot of U.S. citizens who are not Americans. A lot. But I've seen men in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan wearing U.S. uniforms, completely loyal to their units, fighting, getting killed, and they were not U.S. citizens. They were trying to become U.S. citizens. I'm like, you're not a U.S. citizen? You're American, man. Straight up American. And I'm like, they still had to go through all this stuff to get their citizenship. I'm like, yeah, if you'll go off, that's right. She's got it. Russell's got it. That's right. Russell Mara. Pocahontas was Powhatan. And actually, most of the British know that tribe. I think they know that tribe because they were around Jamestown area. And when my great whatever greatest grandparents first came over in 1609, I'm almost sure they had two people from the Powhatan tribe on the boat when they got shipwrecked in Bermuda in 1609. My Eason side, my mother's side, my mother was Eason, right? Eason. And so you can just Google Eason, Bermuda, 1609, right? And you'll see that's my family, direct family line, like not split off or anything. That's like straight up. So that's a pine tree straight. And so they were coming over, but that was they were coming over with the Virginia company, right, to go to Jamestown, 1609. And that there's some of the Powhatan Indians had already been over in like London and stuff because they were using the Virginia company was using the Indians to say, oh, the Indians are very friendly. They're, and the gold comes down the streams. It just glitters in the sunshine, and tobacco grows. That's when, the Europe was discovering tobacco. It's like we brought some diseases and the Indians happily sent some back, like tobacco. And by the way, all that corn, like this corn that we see in Thailand, and a lot of it I've got as survival food, because it's vacuum packed, all Native Americans. That's Native Americans, straight up. All this popcorn and stuff you're eating around the world, Indians. We got it from them. Got it straight from them. We got a lot from them, man. We get a lot. So you were here in 1627. So, yeah. And so when my grandparents got shipwrecked on Bermuda in 1609, my uncle was born, and his name was Bermudez Eason, Eason. And the reason we know that is because they had like a propagandist on board. He was an author who was hired by the Virginia company to write a book and write stories about how great it is over in the New World, right? It's so easy to grow stuff. The Indians are so nice. Hell, they were at war already. The Indians are so nice and all kinds of stuff, right? And so they got shipwrecked due to a big storm, hurricane maybe, out on Bermuda. And so they had the author there, and they had those two Indians from the Powhatan tribe, and there was pigs out there. There was no Indians on the Bermuda. Nobody lived on Bermuda. It was completely deserted. But about 100 years before, I think it was like 1504 or something. I think it was a Spanish mission dropped off some pigs and left some pigs on Bermuda, because that's what they used to do. A lot of the sailors used to leave pigs all over the world. That's why you see these non-indigenous pigs all over the place, right? Because they would seed those on islands across the Pacific. They would seed them like America, all over the place. That's why all these non-indigenous pigs are out there, because they used to seed them, because then they could come back and get some bacon, right? Because they'll know, hey, we left some pigs on that island 30 years ago. Here it is on the map. You go back, and the pigs are all over the place. You know how pigs are. And that's why, a lot of the Polynesians are big time into cannibalism. And that's why they call humans long pig, because people taste like pig. The American cannibal I tracked down in India, he's from Houston. He says his uncle was Robert Louis Stevenson. He wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Treasure Island and all that stuff. And Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote those books, who apparently may have been his great uncle. I'm not sure. I traced back his family tree, and his family told me that they were, but I wasn't able to actually tie them together. They might be. I'm not able to exclude them either. Because Robert Louis Stevenson didn't have any kids. But they called it long pig, right? that American cannibal would be like, Michael, that's why they love Spam so much in Hawaii, because it tastes like long pig. Right. So think about that next time you're having bacon. All right. Feral hogs, man, they're everywhere. Pork chop hill. That means a different meaning for some people. Pemmican's good. Yeah, I was thinking about getting one of those. I'm finished saying all the important things. I'm just rambling on, answering questions. Thinking about getting one of those air roasting things to make to make beef jerky as well. Oh, wait. Your ancestor James Rising also went to Bermuda first, but in 1635. That's it. You know why Bermuda is British today? It's British today because the ship that my family was on, not their ship, it got shipwrecked on Bermuda, and then it gets to be a more involved story with mutiny and all kinds of stuff. But long story short is it ended up being a British colony. If not, it could have been a Spanish colony. It could be like another Puerto Rico. Instead, it's Bermuda. It's one of the richest places in the world, actually. Not to get into that, but it's quite well off. But actually, when my uncle Bermudez Eason was born on Bermuda he was born in 1610, right? His godfather was he was the guy that married Pocahontas. Was the godfather of my uncle, married Pocahontas. Not Elizabeth Warren. He didn't marry her. That was a different century. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. Eason. Yeah. If you follow that down far enough, you'd see my family. You'd see me sitting right here. I came straight. Just imagine if Bermuda weren't there, I wouldn't be here. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Kim, Self Mashad, you have an air fryer. Love it. Dehydrations. See, that's what I was thinking about getting. I was trying to make that Ninja type is really expensive though. So I was thinking about that other one, the Instapot. And it looks like there's like a cult formed around Instapot and a pot, and another cult formed around Ninja. It's like a Coke Pepsi thing or a Ford Chevy thing. I'm just trying to figure out which one's the best. Hey, Lois. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Welcome on, Lois. We're just chatting now. I've already said all the important stuff earlier. We're just chit-chatting. Cheryl says she loves hers. I wonder what would happen if you just put a piece of ham on the air dryer, like the just slice of it. I wonder how that would come out. And just air dry it. Instapots are great. All my friends that's got them, they're great. And other people like those Ninja pots. And Ninja pots are more expensive, but I wonder which one's best. This is the thing. I want to get one that lasts the rest of my life because that's how I am, right? I like to get something that I don't want to replace it, right? One time, one shot, got it. Like, get you a good skillet, and it's the skillet for the rest of your life. Let's see what Cypher's saying. Hey, Mike, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here. 855 cases in a county with 1.22 million. Lots of people starting to ignore lockdown and getting pissed about not being able to work. Man, see, that's a tough decision because seeing how things are going, I'm getting more of the mind, and I've been saying it for maybe a couple of weeks now. We should probably just open up. And the people that are most at risk, fat people, people with other comorbidities, elderly people, should just stay inside. You know what I mean? And they quarantine that subset of people. And then others who have lower risk profiles, take it upon yourself. Because when you think about it, when you really think about it in a logical, sensible thing, when we go, okay, this church shouldn't be all meeting in a group. And I was saying that, and I think it's stupid, really. Or in spring break, getting all kinds of people out there on the beach, I thought that was very stupid. Of course, as more information develops, we figure out, who's at risk and who's not more. And the young people seem to be less at risk. But Maddie, for instance, she's 22 and she might have lung damage. She's not sure because she doesn't breathe as well now. And I talked with a scientist today for like 3 hours on the phone. And he sent me some image. Maybe he's online right now. If he is, he's being quiet. But he was like, look at the left one, look at the right one. I'm looking at it on my screen. And he's like, see that? That's the damage they're getting from this. I mean, it's really severe damage some people are getting. So it's not like, it might not be you just get it like a cold and you're good to go. It might be you get it. In some people's cases, it's going to stay with you. But think about it if you want to stay inside, just stay inside, right? And why should everybody else stay inside because you have high risk or I have high risk? Why should they really? And some people could easily mount an argument because. Well, at the end of the day, other people's lives are affected too. Like they got kids to feed, right? And they don't have to come in your home or your apartment, right? Just like keep the door locked. We can work around most things. I mean, there's, somebody will deliver your food. You can order online. You can get it from whatever, Amazon. We're going to have food shortages. I strongly think we're going to have food shortages. And when people aren't out at work, these problems are going to snowball. They're going to snowball. The economy goes down, supply chain issues, maybe even production issues. Think about the whole supply chain here. It's fragile. If one little part breaks, boom, you don't get food. And the problem set can be enormous. I mean, I'm starting to think the Swedish model may be the wise model, but we should watch that. They're sticking their toe in the water. Let's watch. I mean, it's probably better since they're going to go ahead and do it anyway, and the Brazilians are going to do it. Let's watch how they fare, right? Actually, it might take too long to figure that out anyway, because I just intuitively, I'm starting to think, and have been starting to think that for a while. I mean, as you know, I've wanted to lock down. I was saying that in January, stop flights, way ahead of the curve, and stop all kinds of other things. But now we've reached a different phase, and I think it's probably smarter to open up for various reasons. Kim Barler saying, I self-quarantine due to certain issues without being forced to by our government. Yeah. I think the people that are going to easily quarantine, most of them are going to do it themselves anyway, right? I think. And others will not be caged animals. You know what I mean? They just won't. How about your teenager? Where's your teenager now? Do you know? Unless you got them handcuffed to the flagpole or something. You know what I mean? Seriously, they're probably snuck out in the basement while you're watching me. They're probably, half mile down the road right now at some party. Hey, James. Pam says, a lot of stores are not letting people buy seeds because they are not essential. That's ridiculous. I'm starting to think open up. I strongly think we'll take a lot of casualties up front that way, but we'll rush through it faster. Or as Bannon says, if you're going through hell, go as fast as you can. Because this virus is only one of our problems. We've also got the economy, and we got China. China is at war with us, and it's very serious. SB says, Mike, one of the largest pork processors in the U.S. in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, was just shut down due to employees having coronavirus. I read that, man. See, this is going to ripple. Yep. Bill Davis, from a friend who lives in Sweden, schools are closed. There are restrictions on public gatherings and venues such as restaurants and bars. Essential services are open, but there are physical reminders and enforced policies of social distancing, and nightly news reminds everyone to follow the specific instructions. Man, speaking of stuff like that, you see those videos of the Chinese up in China mistreating blacks and that sort of thing? That's normal, man. I've been to China. First time I went to China was 2002, right? And then I went different times. I went from India to Tibet to China to Hong Kong and back to India and then other places. But it doesn't matter. But the point is, that was 2002, and then it's been many times since. But there incredible racism in mainland China, and it is not put down by the government. It is encouraged, and it's open. It's like, it's the opposite of America. And then they come over to America and they're like, you're a xenophobe, you're a racist, you're a this, because they use that to disarm the politically correct idiots, right? And let me tell you what, this political correct stuff, as you know, people that have looked at my work for years realize that I've never been a very politically correct. I'm just not good at it, right? But it's reached a point now where it's boiling over with, it's going to be counterproductive. If they throw or let's say somebody throws the racist card, here's the thing. So you called somebody a racist. You need to follow up with evidence right then. Not just, hey, that person's a racist, because this is the deal. It's already been like that for me for years. But as soon as somebody says that guy's a racist or she's a racist, I'm going to be like, where's your evidence? And if they go blah, 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 I'm going to be like, okay, you're a liar. I don't want to have anything to do with you. We need to start shunning them until they stop just throwing these race cards all the time. Race baiting cards. Start shunning them. Block them. Block them off the internet. Block them off your Facebook. Oh, you're a xenophobe. Blocked. You're a racist. Blocked. You know what I mean? It's like, we're at war. I don't got time for you PC punks. Just block them. Get rid of them. And this is not the normal situation. You can see my attitudes change. I mean, I'm fasting now. I'm going to get back into fighting weight and in shape because, we're actually at war. Don't put up with the PC punks. Block them. Knock them off. Don't have time for them. Quarantine them. The Canadian Armed Forces, the Babaloki says the Canadian Armed Forces have just banned gendered pronouns. You can't say he and she. See, all this punk ass stuff is going to hurt us in combat. like all these people saying, oh, women should be in infantry. And then I say no. And they're like, you're a sexist. And I'm like, no, I've been in a lot of combat with infantry units, a lot, like real firefights, not driving around going, hey, we might get in a firefight today. Nope. It's like, this is the 4th firefight today. And we've had 6 casualties. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen what it's like to have to get people out of burning vehicles while they're screaming and on fire and under, things going on and all kinds of stuff. It's like, no, you need men in infantry units, period. And I got kicked off of one of these private groups with a bunch of military officers. There, one of them is a retired colonel, and he's like, calling me a xenophobic, sexist, misogynist, and all this stuff. I was like, you punk. You are an infantry colonel, not an infantry colonel. He was a colonel in the Army, and he's saying all this stuff. Trash. You know what I mean? And I was like, complete catastrophic loss of face on his part and loss of respect, irrevocable. This is the kind, look, we are at war. We could easily be in combat with China soon, like actual combat by various means, unknown means, right? We need really tough people. We need, like, who's this woman, Mika or whatever, gets up and crying on TV. Y'all need to stop crying if you want to be equal to men. You don't get up and cry all the time. Like this naval officer that crashed her ship or got crashed into by another ship. Now she's in court. People got killed. She starts crying. I'm like, you know what? You're making me sick. Stop crying. You're a military officer, right? You're a military officer. You're expected to not cry and break down in front of your people all the time. You're expected to be ready for combat. You're expected to be ready to see people blown to smithereens in front of you and keep your wits about you and stay in the fight, right? Get tired of these people. All right, sorry, I'm going off because we got to put an end to this PC stuff. It's very deleterious to us. It's very damaging to us. And, if they come up and they throw that racist card at me or that sexist card, you're a misogynist and all that. And I'm like, nobody loves women more than me. You see my old photo from the Army days? You should have seen how buff I was. I had to get them off me with a cattle prod. And trust me, I liked it. I'm not misogynist at all, but I didn't want them in infantry or I was in combat. I was in, not combat. I was in special forces. There was no place for them in my unit. There was no place for women in my unit except in intelligence and that sort of thing. But when it comes to parachuting into Poland, you know what I mean, and killing Russians and that sort of thing, hello, you're kidding. It's like even really tough men will have a very difficult time with that mission. You have no idea how fit and tough I was then, as were the men around me. It was unbelievable. You know what? When I was 23 years old, let this sink in what I'm about to tell you. I could bench press 420 pounds, and I weighed 173 pounds. For people that know much about weight, I could bench press 420, and I weighed 173, and that was a legal bench press, and I didn't do steroids, right? Super fit, very strong, very tough. I walked 40 miles with a 50-pound rucksack in 15 hours and 3 minutes, right? And special forces was still tough for me. That's why when people are like, women can do that, and I'm like, you need to be quiet. Oh yeah, man, Lois, it was good times. It was good times, I'm not one of those guys that looks back and goes, well, never had a pretty girlfriend. Let's see. I enjoyed my younger life. And I'm not an officer and a gentleman. I'm just not really a gentleman. I don't need a Snickers bar. Look, but we've got to be toughed up. We're going to go through times right now that are going to be really tough, and we're not there yet. Not even there. You already got people going, there's only 22,000 Americans dead so far. It's not that much. You're like, all right, we don't have time for stupid people. This is, you know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to talk like that. I know it's not politically correct. I know it's not just a favorable way to talk, and it can reflect back on me some. My grandmother taught me not to talk like that, but let's face it, we don't have time for that stupidity, right? It's real straight up. The chance of food shortages in the United States at this point are much more significant than I thought earlier. And I was saying in January, stock up on food. That's America, much less other countries. Hong Kongers, I'm telling my Hong Konger friends, I'm afraid if I tell my Hong Konger friends one more time to stock up, they'll stop answering my messages. I'll be like, hello, how's it going today? Stock up on food. You know what I mean? Especially Hong Kongers. Y'all need to stock up on food. It's no joke. You know it, and you know why. Americans Thais need to stock up. Thais got to stock up on food. Got to stock up. Kim Barlow says, some of the toughest men I know have not been the biggest males. Oh, absolutely. And women too. This is a weird thing about that. I wrote about it in my first book, Danger Close. You'll see people and they're not how they appear. Actually, they can dress one way and, you know, it's like RuPaul or whatever. And they can disguise themselves chameleon like, but underneath there's something else. They might be a real big guy, buff, talks deep, real voice. Then you get out there and you're doing Green Beret stuff. You're like, that dude shouldn't even be here. And soon he's not, you know, because he quits or he gets kicked out, right? I mean, it's like, and then there's this little skinny dude that doesn't say much, skinnier than me. A lot. I wasn't skinny. I was freaking nothing but muscle. And, you know, and he's real quiet and he's from some farm in Kansas or something. And he's tough. He's straight up tough, highly competent. Very good at his job, you know, studies, reads the books, trains hard, is doing his physical training, knows his weapons, knows his everything. And he doesn't look like that. If you saw him out somewhere, you'd be like, that guy's probably, you know, I don't know, runs a flower shop or something. You know, you might look at his hands and see they're scratched up or something and be like, he was just out in the woods. You know, I can look at somebody and tell if they've been in the woods lately, you know, because I spent so much time in jungles and woods. But, yeah, you know, often people are not who you think they are. And a lot of people are about to learn that with this pandemic. A lot of people are going to make friends. They're going to make friends that are going to last their whole lifetime. I've said this many times. When you go to a war or special forces, well, I've still got friends Richard White, we were born in the hospital 3 days apart. We're still, actually, I should call him tonight. He's in Kansas. We're still close friends. I got a lot of friends from that age. But when you get into special forces, you make friends that are friends for life. They'll come on my face. Maybe some of them are on tonight. I'm not reading all the comments. But sorry, brothers, if I didn't see it. Or you go off into combat as me. I went as a war correspondent, but I was out with infantry. I went out with special forces sometimes, but I couldn't write about them much. So I was like, I love special forces, but I'm just out taking chances, getting shot at with you guys, and I can't even write about it. I'm going to stick with infantry, you know? Yeah. And so you make friends for life. And now during this pandemic, a lot of people are going to find out. They're going to be like, hey, I always took so-and-so for granted, but she is the superhero. And she's the one that's like, all of a sudden has risen to the task. And it's like, you never expected it from her or him. You'd be like, really? And then you end up being friends for life. You're like, you see something in them. You're like, that is a special, special person. You know, right there, I never realized how just, when it came to stress, she was on it. She was ready to roll and getting things done and high energy, and you'll be friends for life. And then likewise, you're going to meet some other people. They're going to be scoundrels. They're not going to do they're going to be part of the problem, and you'll never forget it. You'll never forget it, because things that happen during times like that, you will not forget. You're like, because it's not just you're like, dude, in the moment of truth, you failed. Or in the moment of truth, you were really good. So remember, all these decisions that we make today, you want to look back in the future and go, I behaved according to the way a person should behave. I did the right things. Even when nobody was watching, I did the right things, right? Everybody should help one person every day. If everybody helps one person every day, we'll be fine. Everybody help one person every day. That's all you got to do. And remember, help yourself first. It's not heroic to help them and then help yourself. That's stupid. Like, remember, the mask comes down on the airplane. Put your mask on first, then put the child's mask on. Likewise, when it comes to this, take care of your own health, take care of yourself, keep your little army good to go, right? Fit to fight, ready to help, ready to do stuff. And once you're good to go, then with your discretionary time and energy, you can help somebody else. That's the way you do it. That's the wise man's way to do it. That's the military way to do it. That's the wise people's way to do it. I don't know what you're talking about on that Republic Liberty. Let's see. Sometimes the person doesn't know who they are until they undergo testing. Oh, exactly right, Kim. You'll see that. That's why you'll see people come out later. They're changed. They're changed because in a positive way, and a lot of people are going to come out of this and they're going to realize, hey, I'm actually a leader when it gets tough. And actually, sometimes during life, maybe I'm not much of a leader at all. But during stress times, I'm Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, man. I'm guiding the freaking sleigh for Santa Claus, right? You know what I mean? Burp, burp. You know, they used to make fun of me, and now I'm getting them through the snow, right? And so there will be a lot of people like that. And then I kept telling the young people in Hong Kong, you know, I said, look, this is tough. Sometimes they will break down crying in the fighting. I love Hong Kongers. All these young people out there fighting with the cops, getting beat up, terrible. And still fighting, sometimes crying. I'm like, listen, y'all are heroes. You are out here fighting for your freedom. You are out here on the front line, alone against all odds. The odds are incredibly stacked against you, and that you're out here fighting. That's why I'm here with you. And I got kicked out after 6 months. But they're fighting. And I would tell them, one day you are a leader. One day, the people that are around you that are young now, they're going to be business leaders. They're going to be medical leaders like doctors, and not just a normal doctor. They're going to be a leader. They're going to be business, political leaders. They're going to be community leaders in whatever different levels and capacities, because now they see and they've learned things that you can never learn in any leadership book. You can never learn it in any leadership course. You can only learn it in a terrible time, right? And a lot of people you're going to see, and maybe you're going to come up and you're going to go, wow, I am that guy. When things get rough, I get rougher. You know what I mean? No man left behind. Don Sakuda, I hope everything's good in Hawaii. It seems my youngest son in Navy is proving to be a leader. Great. Which I didn't think he was until he was younger. Oh, when he was younger, he had a lot of obstacles he overcame. Yeah, the confidence level is so high. Like when I went to basic training, I had practice. I'd done so much sports, and so many of the coaches around me and military veterans, they were like, oh, you're going to go in the military? That's good. It'll help make a man of you. And you got to be tough, though. You want to go special forces? Oh, let me tell you what. My uncle's in special forces. You want to talk with him? Yeah. So I go over and talk with him. And there's one guy I used to work out at. It was called the Gym on 3rd Street in Winter Haven. And he used to walk down, and he had these giant calves. If anybody's ever seen my calves, you'll see I got these giant meat hook calves too, man. They look like something like come from an animal. I got them from my grandfather, right? And that guy had calves like that too. I was like, man, he's got the same calves me and my granddad got. And this lawyer that worked out in a gym, his name was, anyway, he's like, that guy, he was a Navy SEAL and a Green Beret. I was like, really? And actually, there are people that have done both. I know some. And so one day that guy was walking with the big calves, was walking by the gym. I ran out. I was like, hey, sir, can I talk with you? He's really big dude, right? And I said, hey, I heard you were in Vietnam. I heard you were a SEAL or a Green Beret or something. He goes, yeah, I was. And who told you that? And I said, one of my friends in the gym. He's like, yeah, I was. And I said, I'm thinking about going in the Army or the Navy. I might want to go into SEALs, or I might want to go into Special Forces. He's like, well, you can do it. Just, train real hard, get ready for it, be very physically fit, run a lot. You need to run a lot. You don't need to go to that gym all the time. You need to run. You need to have cardiovascular, right? And gym helps, but, be flexible, that sort of stuff. And he said, remember, if you make it into SEALs or special forces, no matter how deadly they make you, always be a gentleman. And then he just walked off. It was like something out of a movie. I was like, I still remember it. He was like looking down at me. He's like, always be a gentleman. So I was like, well, I mean, actually, it made me more of a gentleman because I remember that sometimes. I was like, always be a gentleman, and then sometimes I back off and I was like, you were not being a gentleman. Be nice. But yeah, I mean, but the leadership that you can learn in the military, not just the military, you don't have to go to the military. You can learn it in all kinds of ways. You can learn it in your business. You can learn it in your family. If you're a good mother or a good father, you're a leader, period. Every good parent's a leader, period. Because you gotta lead the worst subject ever, a child. It's like you got to be a psychologist. Let's see. Kim Barlow, the school environment often places students with poor character and leadership. It changes in the environment found in the real world. Yeah. Greg Holm, great pep talk, Mike. Haven't heard how Michael's roommate's doing. Oh, Maddie's roommate. Actually, I didn't ask her, but because we were talking today, I was asking her how she's doing, and she thinks she gave it to a doctor, actually, as a friend as well. And yeah, actually, she said that he did confirm that he had it, but he seems to be okay as well, but he's coughing a lot. And Maddie's still coughing too. Yeah, Kim says, yes, parenthood tests and teaches leadership. I know a woman that was, and she was a leader actually, and she was a good friend of mine. And she was, she had to get volunteers and hire people for different stuff. And she said, you know who I look for? I look for women that are like in their 50s or so, and they've raised up, some children and, like 2 or 3 children, and they've raised them up because they know how to handle stress. It's like, she's like, they know how to run a restaurant service, a shuttle service, a ambulance service, a psychologist office. You know what I mean? If they successfully raise some children, then they can do anything. You just got to change you know what I mean? You just got to remold it a little bit, and then you can take those same skills and use them in different ways. Yeah, it's true. Oh, I'm sure, Don, marching band helps with leadership. Anything where you have to get things done with a group of people, and sometimes they don't want to do it or whatever, you know what I mean? They got stress in their life, or they don't show up, or you know how it goes. It's like all those things, all those things. It's a lot of things. And then or 2 of them are fighting, or 3 of them are fighting, or whatever, and you got to, hey, look, we got to do this. We got to accomplish this mission over here. We don't have time for y'all to be, Tommy Barrios says the Air Force made us feel we could be good, as good or worthless as we wanted to be, but we were warned the worthless would get weeded out pronto instead of being coddled like nowadays. Yeah, a lot of them definitely are coddled. Like that retired colonel, I was just like, what are you? What's his name? I should publish it sometimes, because later he was publishing a few things about me. I was like, hey, listen, Rambo, you need to Google my name and Stanley McChrystal and Gerald Menard and a few others. He backed off. I was like, because if you think I won't come after you, you're crazy as a fish. I'm the guy that I didn't tell him this, but I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm the guy that would train for several years to parachute into Poland and kill Russians. I ain't afraid of you. It's like, and I won't be talked down to by you. I don't care if you're a general. It's like he backed off, but I was just like, he tried to, women should be in infantry and all this. I'm like, no, it's nonsense. And don't tell me we're equal in that opinion. Unless you've been in infantry combat, we're not equal in that opinion. And a lot of interesting thing on infantry combat, unless you've been in it, it might not, they'll preemptively put up things like, don't say it's about upper body strength. I'll be like, I didn't. Apparently you've had this argument many times because you're preemptively trying to cut off argument paths here, right? I'm like, I don't have to go, listen, I've got so many combat memories in my head it could make a series of movies that would all be like straight up Black Hawk Down craziness. You know what I mean? It's like a lot. You know what I mean? Not with all the helicopters getting shot down and stuff, but lots of firefights, lots of casualties, lots of guys stepping on a bomb and getting blown to pieces. Another guy stepped on a bomb, blown to pieces. Car blown up, on fire, shot by a sniper in the face, shot by a sniper in the face, shot by a sniper in the heart, right through the plate, missed the plate. You know, all kinds of stuff. On and on and on. Incoming rockets, incoming mortars, incoming rockets. It's like casualties, more casualties. That's all in my head times like 100, right? So when they tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm like, I'm one of the very few people that you will meet that actually do, unless you're talking with an infantryman or somebody like that, or special forces, SEAL, Delta, Ranger type, unless Ranger is infantry, of course, unless you're, talking with somebody like that that's done a significant amount of real combat, and they will, there's one Medal of Honor recipient, that Marine guy, who was like, women should be allowed in infantry. I've seen men that shouldn't be in infantry. And I'm like, all right, dude, I know you got a Medal of Honor and all that, and it's sacrilege. You're supposed to be the holy one. Guess what? I don't worship you, and I don't worship your Medal of Honor, right? I know that's the thing. It's like you get hit with a cattle prod in the face by saying, what, you don't worship his Medal of Honor? I'm like, listen, if he's going to come up and say he's going to hold up his Medal of Honor, he didn't do that, but you know what I mean, figuratively, and say women should be in infantry, no, I won't respect him, period. Medal of Honor and all. He can get 5 medals of honor. I won't respect him. Tommy Virus, Americans are not being taught teamwork. I don't know. I don't know what they're being taught, but teamwork is obviously essential in so many tasks, whether it's medical people working in a hospital or, so many things. Business. Oh, Lord, not just military. I mean, good Lord, fire department, police, school teachers have to have teamwork. Teamwork is like a bedrock. You know what I mean? It's like, how can we function without it, All right, let me try to. Megan says, oh, Lord, I have 2. Wait a minute, popped off. I have 2 special needs kids and a set of twins. Maybe I am some type of leader, LOL. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I mean, think of all the, I'm sure you think of all the problems you have to deal with. It's a lot. You know what I mean? When you just list them down, when you just like watch a mother, all the stuff she goes through over a period of like 1 week, you're like, how does she even sleep? You know what I mean? It's like, how does she do anything? It's like, that's why, by the way, people like me are needed to be out watching the perimeter, because a mother raising children or a father raising children with her, or either maybe both of them have jobs or whatever, y'all don't have time to focus on this stuff. You got kids to focus on. You got a job. You got the hole in the roof. You got all kinds of things to focus on. And you turn on the TV and the attorney general is like, not the attorney general, the surgeon general is like, you don't need to wear a mask. I'm like, what? And because you're so busy, you don't have time to track this stuff the way I do, right? And then they come in and they deceive you. And you're like, well, that's what the surgeon general said. Okay, we don't need mask, honey. Next, It's like unbelievable. You don't have time to watch the perimeter. I mean, that's my job. My job is watch the perimeter, right? Your job is raise good children, right? And this is all part of a larger team, right? Because we're all in this together. I mean, all these different parts. You got to focus on your children, right? That's peeking out there. I saw a red on that speaker light or the microphone light. Yeah, I mean, you gotta focus on your home and your household, and you got to depend on the military and law enforcement and firefighters and teachers and everybody else to do their jobs, because we can only do what we can do, and teamwork is essential. All right, let me see. not many questions coming in, so I'll go ahead and call it a night. And let's see. And I probably missed a few questions up there. And I don't see any readily popping up. Okay, I'll go ahead and if there's no questions on the bottom, when I scroll back down, I'll just go ahead and shut off for now. All right, I don't see anything else. I don't even know if we're still online. All right, y'all have a good night. Stock up on food. Mike out.